Hey, Larry Elder here. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt and KHNC.
What's up, guys? How are you doing today? Bucky Dillon here, host of the Bucky Dillon Morning Show, right here live from KHNC Studios in beautiful Johnstown, Colorado. And it is great to be with you. I'm very excited for the day, and I'm very excited for the week. I'm taking my in-laws back to China. By the way, yesterday was the celebration of the Chinese Spring Festival. And let me tell you, China knows how to party. I performed at the Chinese Spring Festival 2 years ago when I was in China. I played drums for a girl named John Luto, who was the winner of the Chinese version of like The Voice. So I played huge concerts during the Spring Festival. They blocked off the entire main street of Xi'an, China, which is one of the largest cities in China. It's got 12.6 million people in the city. They blocked off the streets just to make room for the audience that went, all the way across the city, and it was broadcast on the largest TV news networks in China. The Spring Festival is their biggest festival of the year, and Chinese people from all around the world fly in to celebrate and partake in it, and they launch fireworks, and they have concerts, and they have street performers and all kinds of cool activities. So that was a lot of fun, and they celebrated that yesterday. And so I enjoyed some traditional Chinese dishes with my family, and watched the live streams from China, and that was pretty cool. So interesting little tidbit for you today. Today I would like to talk about strategies for debating. Now, a lot of conservatives don't like the debate. They don't like the fight. This is what made Trump so appealing to a huge portion of the libertarian conservative base. Is he was a fighter, and he wasn't just a fighter, he was a culture fighter, right? I think he would have been crushed in a debate against Bernie Sanders, not because I think Bernie Sanders is right, but because I think Bernie Sanders has been honing his message and the way he talks about his policies for a very long time, and he knows how to communicate them better than anybody else. Donald Trump, he's not the best at talking about policy. He's a culture fighter, right? He's the best at pointing to the radicals and saying, these people are crazy. They want to run your life. And it's interesting for me because I don't think Trump was the greatest at explaining his own policy positions very well, or his comprehensive political worldview. I'm not sure he has a comprehensive political worldview. I think he has a gut instinct that is relatively accurate, in my opinion, on a lot of the key issues. And I do think he genuinely loved this country, and I think that's probably what he would hit on in a debate against Bernie Sanders. But Bernie is very good at arguing his policies, and he kind of forced the entire Democratic Party, particularly in the primaries, into running to his flank. And of course, you could never out left old Bernie, right? So that was a failing strategy for them. But it really does come down to culture, and Bernie Sanders is popular because politics comes down to culture and comes down to messaging and optics, right? And even though I disagree with a lot of Bernie's policies, he does understand the optics. He does understand the messaging, and it works in his favor that most people don't pay attention to politics. They pay attention to the optics, right? That, and the left knows this. That's why they focus so much on infiltrating the spheres of culture and the spheres of cultural media. They really focus on those issues because they know that it's those issues that matter most to most people. So of course they focus in on this, and that they just weave social justice messaging into cultural content, and it's very effective. People don't want to admit how effective it is, but it is the most effective way to win in politics. Because here's the truth: most people aren't paying attention to the news, right? They don't trust the mainstream media. That's why it's so easy and so popular to bash on the mainstream media. It's easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. But there is this dichotomy to where people on the right seem hesitant to speak. And that is an issue primarily because if you're afraid to speak, you might as well pack it up and go home. You've already lost the battle. And we have to engage in the battle. We have to. We are losing our young people to the progressive socialists that have a completely, utterly incomprehensive worldview that just doesn't make any sense. How do you square a welfare state and lack of operational control of our borders? You can't really. But they managed to do it. They managed to do it because they don't have to explain the policy. They just have to make people feel good. So why should you get in a debate with somebody? Well, number one, you have to focus on the terms of the debate. We'll get to that after the break. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show. What's up, KHNC Patriots? Bucky Dillon here. If you're looking for a simple and free way to support the station, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/1360KHNC. It really does help us reach a broader and a younger audience, help us take our country back. Give it a like, give it a follow, give it a share, invite your friends. You can watch the live streams, you can read the blog, you can share the memes, and you can join the conversation. You can join the fight, facebook.com/1360KHNC.
Do you know interest rates are at an all-time low? If your mortgage rate is 4% or more, you need to call SCL. Hi, this is Larry Jagger, the president of SCL Mortgage. Now may be the time to refinance and pay off expensive non-deductible interest debt and skip 2 months payments. Or are you self-employed? We can use your bank statements to qualify you. Find SCL at myspecialmortgage.com or call 970-444-1222 and myspecialmortgage.com, NMLS number 1200716.
Chinese state-run media are celebrating the apparent success of Joe Biden and the mainstream news outlets, which act as nothing more than the communications branch of the Democrat Party. Among the many things we are doing to become more engaged in the culture, 1360khnc.com now has a blog page for the sharing of hard-hitting conservative content. Help us break the left's domination of media by becoming a content contributor. Reach out to contact@1360khnc.com to learn more.
Back in the USSR.
Socialism, like the ancient ideas from which it springs, confuses the distinction between government and society. As a result, every time we object to a thing being done by government, the socialists conclude we object to it being done at all. We disapprove of state education, and the socialists say we are opposed to any education. Socialism. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
Back in the USSR.
欢迎收听 KHNC 广播电台 Bucky Dillon 早安秀，大家的早安广播，谢谢。
Now is our time to take back control. You heard it. And one way to do that is by winning over people in the middle. I mean, isn't that the whole point? That's the whole point. You don't win in politics by consolidating the base that already agrees with you. You win by winning over people who don't agree with you. By winning over people who haven't quite made up their mind yet. That's how a democratic republic works. But they have to be exposed to your arguments, right? And you have to argue. So when should you get engaged in an argument? Should you argue with your coworker about politics? No, probably not. Should you argue with your boss about politics? No, probably not. You should debate when you have an audience, right? If you want to make a friend with somebody, the conversation about politics isn't necessarily the conversation to have, right? If you want to make a friend, there's some other conversations you should be engaged in. When you should debate is when there's an audience to debate, right? You should debate because you're not trying to change the mind of the person you're talking to. You're trying to change the minds of the people watching you talk to that person. And that's what you have to keep in mind. And you have to keep in mind that it doesn't matter how great your ideas are if you're the bad guy. That's why a lot of the trolling isn't very helpful. Guys, if you want to watch the live stream, you can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/1360KHNC. And I am right now posting the live stream link on the page. There you go. It's up. Facebook.com/1360KHNC. Give it a like, give it a follow, invite your friends, share the page, share the content, engage in the conversation with me. There is a live chat that is always running on the live stream, and you can engage in the conversation. It looks like we have 5 people watching now. So when to debate? When you have an audience, right? And then when you do have an audience, the whole point in the debate is to win by making it as easy as possible for people to like you and want to be on your team, and as difficult as possible for people to like the other guy, right? And the left understands this, right? Mitt Romney versus Obama. What went wrong? Obama went out there and said that Mitt Romney is a Darth Vader-like evil religious bigot who keeps binders full of women and wants to take away people's health care so that their wives die of cancer, and straps dogs to the roofs of cars. And he was a bad man, right? What did Mitt Romney say about Obama? Oh, he's a nice guy. I just think his policies are bad. I disagree with him on policy. Well, if people have to make up their minds between nice guy but incompetent or Darth Vader, That's not that hard of a choice, right? And so, that is what you go for. You go for the morality of the issue. So always argue on moral terms and always try to make your case not in, oh, this is a fiscally responsible policy, but this is a policy that the fact that it's sustainable and fair makes it moral. What's wrong with socialism is, number one, it doesn't achieve its ends, but number two, it's theft, right? The left says that they're anti-gun. Well, all of these laws, all of these regulations, and typically the left is the side that's pushing them, especially on the socialism front, they're backed by the point of gun. And that's one way to point out the morality of the conversation right there, right? So they're putting redistribution plans. I mean, the diversity quotas, things like that. All of that is a way for the left is a way for the left to mandate something. Well, what is a mandate? It means that if you don't do it, federal agents are going to show up. Representatives of the state are going to show up. They're going to show up armed, right? So what happens if you don't pay your taxes? Well, you'll get notices, right? And then if you don't respond to those notices, they'll send a tax collector to your house. If you don't cater to them, then eventually at some point they will send police officers to your house with guns, and they will arrest you. And if you resist arrest, they'll point a gun at you. And if you continue resisting arrest, well, you know the rest. So all of their laws and regulations and mandates are backed by the force of government gun. So one way to speak on moral terms is to say, hey, it is not fair for you to point guns at people, right? Point out where the policies are counterproductive on moral levels. Why is the Black Lives Matter issue so dangerous? Because it's not toothless. Because there are consequences that come from making the racial relations between people worse, between peddling victimhood to people and making them resentful. It makes the conversation about between police and the community worse. And when people think that they're being pulled over and they've attracted the attention of the police officers only and exclusively because of the color of their skin, and that the police are out to get them, why wouldn't they be defensive? Why wouldn't they be resisting? Why wouldn't they be skeptical and harbor animosity? And when you go into an engagement with a police officer with defensiveness, animosity, and resistance, bad things are more likely to happen, right? Or the police withdraw from proactively enforcing crime, and the crime rate shoots up 300%. Right? Homicide at the hands of criminals in the community is already the number one cause of death for young Black men. Thousands, 8,000, I think is like an average. 8,000 young Black Americans are killed by crime a year. And we can't have this conversation about policing without having a conversation about crime. So always speak on moral terms. Make your arguments based on moral terms. Point out the moral failings of your opponent's argument and point out the gun in the room. Number two, know the topic of debate intimately and be proficient speaking about it. Listen to the profound libertarian and conservatives who are the thought leaders. Listen to the Thomas Sowells, the Larry Elders. Listen to the Milton Friedmans, and listen to Dan Crenshaw and learn what is at the what is actually wrong with these policies, and have some numbers, have some facts, have some evidence, and be prepared to wield them by repeating them a few times and getting comfortable speaking about it. If you don't know a subject very well, should you jump into a boxing match if you've never put on boxing gloves before and you're gonna be stumbling around just getting knocked out? No. Do some training, right? If you want to actually be efficient in winning political battles, train. And one way you can do this is role play with a partner and practice defending the opposite positions to which you hold. This will give you a better understanding of the mindset and strategies of those you may have to challenge later. So you should be exposing yourself. Now, this is something that the right does way better than the left, is actually exposing themselves to the opposing arguments. Because if you're on the right, you're going to hear the opposing argument no matter what you do, right? You're going to hear it in Hollywood. You're going to hear it at the football games. You're going to hear it in the mainstream media. You're going to see it on Netflix. I mean, it's always out there. You can't miss it, right? You are always bombarded by the left-wing arguments. Know them. Know how to argue on behalf of them, and then know how to argue against them. And then that makes it that gives you the ability to understand the framework from which your opponent is operating from. And if you don't know something, just admit it. Just admit that hey, I don't know something. Let me circle back, right? I'll circle back to that. And then be appreciative for the opportunity to learn something new. Say, hey, I didn't know that. Let me you may be right. Let me get back to that. And this is kind of like a funny little trick that you can play when you're debating somebody, is to make yourself look less radical. Again, it's all about optics. It's all about optics. It's all about messaging. Walk towards the fire. What do I mean? The left understands the culture war. They understand it much better than they do policy or history, and they absolutely understand it better than they do economics. They know they can win by intimidation and character attacks. So this will almost always be their first attack, right? Be prepared to call it out. There's almost nothing more disgusting than racism, but what's just as bad as racism is going around and accusing people who aren't racist of being bigots. So you can even do this at the very beginning of the conversation. You can disarm that attack before they use it by just going out and saying, hey, a lot of people will accuse people who disagree with your stance of being racist. Well, here's why that is an immoral, it makes you a bad person to use that kind of strategy, and it kind of disarms them from using that. So if you point out the obvious character attacks that are coming before they can use them, then it drastically disarms them, and then you could just hammer. It makes you a bad person to call someone just a regular guy that doesn't hold any racial animosity a racist, right? It's just as divisive and ugly as racism itself. And don't shy away from being called a racist. Fight it, right? Hit back hard. Don't hide. And then if people do start accusing you of it, you have to brush it off and keep hitting them. This is something that Trump actually does very, very well. He is a mud monster. He's an absolute mud monster. And no matter what people tried to say about him, it didn't seem to affect him because he wouldn't break from it. People would go in and try to debate Trump and act as if they were as clean as the driven snow, and he would drag them into the mud. And it works on them because they're trying to act like they're so great, where he will just roll around in the mud with them. So we'll get back to it after the break.
Hey all, I'm Lee Turner Jr. of Tango Firearms Training, inviting you to join me on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock for my show, Don't Be a Victim, right here on KHNC 1360, the roar of the Rockies.
1360 KHNC is proud to announce our partnership with My Kind CBD, a local Colorado-based company that uses no pesticides, no herbicides, completely organic, no heavy metals. All their products are certified. That's right, independently lab certified. Our prices are the best in the country. Go out to 1360khnc.com and hit the shopping cart button and make your purchase today.
This is Sam Shook, Navy Vet and Medicare Specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me at 970-413-4939. Again, thanks KHNC listeners.
Chinese state-run media are celebrating the apparent success of Joe Biden, and the mainstream news outlets, which act as nothing more than the communications branch of the Democrat Party. Among the many things we are doing to become more engaged in the culture, 1360khnc.com now has a blog page for the sharing of hard-hitting conservative content. Help us break the left's domination of media by becoming a content contributor. Reach out to contact at 1360khnc.com to learn more.
The Federal Reserve is in control of our money, but lately control is the last word you would use to describe the Fed. Emergency rate cuts, huge increases in their balance sheet, the constant blowing of bubbles and boom and bust cycles that just leave most of us busted. I'm Joe Jaquin, owner of the Patriot Trading Group, and we have been protecting people's wealth for almost 25 years. Stop playing the Fed's game and get your wealth protected. Call us at 800-951-0592 or visit our website at allamericangold.com.
My name is Dwayne Brothwell. Listen to my show, Mystery Babylon, every Sunday, 11 a.m. I will show you how the birth certificate image of the beast binds you to Babylon the bank for the debt money we use to buy and sell with. That's every Sunday, 11 a.m.
Hey, KHNC listeners, Bucky Dillon here. By the way, I just want to let you know, if you're interested in buying or selling real estate, I highly recommend you contact my friend Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com. He's been doing real estate here since like 2005. And you don't just get him, you get the entire Sears Real Estate team, one of the best in the business, looking out for you on one of the most crucial purchases of your life. Don't mess it up. Contact my friend Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com. The Bucky Dillon Show is a Liberty Revolt Media production. www.libertyrevoltmedia.com. I mean, you got to hand it to Trump. They threw everything and the kitchen sink at him, and he never shied away from the public spotlight. He never shied away from it on the debate stage. In fact, he was the best at throwing kitchen sinks. Attack. Go on the attack. And I know conservatives tend to be very polite people. You know, we tend to care about, you know, getting along to get along, right? Going along to get along. We're not that committed to politics. Most of us don't really like politics. It's kind of slimy. It's kind of, you know, gross. And a lot of Republicans don't even like Republican politicians. It's really funny. A lot of people like myself kind of believe in some of the libertarian conservative philosophy, but we don't really like Republican politicians, which, by the way, is another strong point in debating. If you're willing to shed your allegiance to your politicians, then that gives you, then when they try to smear Bush, because they'll always say, you'll say blah blah blah, and they'll say, but Trump, but Bush, and you don't have to chain yourself to that anchor. You can say, yeah, I didn't like that he signed the Patriot Act. Yeah, I didn't like that he didn't condemn this strongly enough. And by criticizing politicians on your own side, you actually make yourself look a lot more moderate. And again, you're trying to win over moderates. That's the whole point in the debate. You're not trying to change the mind of the person you're arguing with. You're trying to change the mind of the people who's watching you argue that person, and you're trying to win them over with your character and your personality just as much as your policies, because people don't really understand policies. They don't really understand math. They understand good versus evil. They understand who the nice guy is. But attack first, because you have to attack first, because they're going to attack you. And if you come off a little too strong, back down, right? But you can really throw people off guard by throwing big haymakers first. In fact, Mike Tyson used to say everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So attack first, and attack by framing your opponent. Framing. And what I mean by that is another thing Trump did very well. He would say, crazy Bernie, sleepy Joe Biden. Find a negative character trait that, the person you are talking to is emitting, and make that their identity. People vote based on identity. People decide who they like based on identity. I mean, it's almost like a fashion show. So if you can make their fashion nasty, then you can win. And that's what the left does. They're going to call you racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobe who hates the poor, right? They're going to say you're in league. Well, the white supremacists agree with you, right? Well, right? Be prepared to disassociate from the radicals on your side strongly, while characterizing your opponent in league with theirs. Body language. Okay. Now this is more difficult, say if you're like in a Facebook argument, which is where a lot of these conversations are. And by the way, if you're engaged in an argument with someone and they're stumping you, or you don't feel like you're making progress, you can reach out to me. libertyrevoltmedia@gmail.com. I'm definitely interested in helping people formulate their arguments. And if I think the argument is interesting, just send me whatever the person is throwing at you to me, and perhaps I'll conduct a response for you, and you can use that. I've been engaging in the Facebook battles since day one. I love that. I've been bashing since the day I could bash. But body language. Nobody cares about how efficient your tax plan is if you're foaming at the mouth, right? Why do they have actors and actresses trot out their policy positions? Because they're actors and actresses. Because they know how to present themselves. They know how to look good. I mean, imagine what the debate would look like if the volume was turned off, right? Because that will give you a better understanding of the optics of the debate. Keep in mind that people aren't just listening, they're watching. So stand up straight, smile, even throw in some jokes here and there will go a long way to giving you the aura of someone who is in control, who is happy, who is approachable, so someone would want to hang out with, right? Whoever looks more comfortable and confident is going to win. I love Larry Elder. He's one of my favorite political thinkings, but I saw him do a debate with what's that guy? Hassan Piker. He's the son of the Young Turks guy. And Hassan was, during the intros and outros, talking about music with the host. And you could tell that he was winning over the host. And then he was trying to characterize Larry Elder as someone who supported just the worst aspects of republicanism and just just trashed, just made Republicans out to be the most radical, dishonest people. And you could tell that Larry Elder felt isolated in studio and uncomfortable, and Hassan was just talking about music and feeling comfortable, slouched back in his chair, smiling, making jokes. And it was, you could see very clearly that if the volume was off, Hassan would have won over everyone. Now I think Larry had better arguments, but again, the arguments, the political arguments you're making as far as policy don't mean as much as you think they do, right? The characterizations mean a lot, and the optics mean a lot. So we've all seen memes of social justice warriors who are like melting down, right? Don't be that person. Don't be the one who is getting all of the attention because of their emotional reaction to things. In fact, one of the best things you can do is keep your eyes judgmentally on your opponent by looking at your opponent. Instead of you're talking to the audience, but by looking to your opponent and stopping to smile at the audience every once in a while, and then going back to your opponent, you are telling the audience, look that way. And as much judgmental attention that you can get on the other person as possible, the better. So shine a judgmental spotlight on your opponent. Again, Trump does this very well. Somebody would say something and you'd see him make a face like this. Right? And it worked. People would see that, it would make them feel good, and then they would look back at that other person and go, right?
Hey, KHNC listeners, Bucky Dillon here. By the way, I just want to let you know, if you're interested in buying or selling real estate, I highly recommend you contact my friend Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com. He's been doing real estate here since like 2005. And you don't just get him, you get the entire Sears Real Estate team, one of the best in the business, looking out for you on one of the most crucial purchases of your life. Don't mess it up. Contact my friend Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com.
Hi, Brian Kilmeade here. Thanks so much for listening to me every weekday from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. right here on KHNC, the roar of the Rockies. Hey, do you own a business in northern Colorado or surrounding areas? Are you looking to reach a conservative, loyal audience which could grow your business? Well, take my advice and contact my friends at KHNC. KHNC has a rapidly growing conservative family-based audience, and you can speak directly to them. Now, if you're looking for the type of customers or clients that believe in the principles that our great country was founded upon, just contact my friends at KHNC, the roar of the Rockies, and learn how you can be heard right on the air. Just call 970-587-5003 or email on the air at 1360khnc.com. That's 970-587-5003 or email on the air at 1360khnc.com. Take it from me, Brian Kilmeade. You can showcase your business to the folks that are helping to take our country back.
Hi, KHNC listeners. Jerry Axon with Sears Real Estate. Please keep me in mind when you are ready to buy or sell, or if you have real estate questions. Another option is the lease with option to buy. The lease program is set up with a year-to-year lease and guarantees a fixed rent and purchase price for 5 years. Jerry Axon, 970-576-1089, 576-1089. Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com.
Great minds think alike. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt. Join me, Larry Elder, today at 5 on 1360 KHNC. Now back to Bucky Dillon.
You know, Ronald Reagan had a saying, if you're explaining, you're losing. So again, one strategy to winning on a debate is to find that point that you are winning on them. And I know, arguing with a liberal is like, it's like trying to nail Jello to the wall, right? They slip and move, right? They're great. They just change the top. You say illegal immigration hurts working class Americans, and they go, but abortion, right? So you have to find a subject that you're winning at, a point in the conversation where you're winning it, and hammer that spot. Keep the conversation on that as long as possible and make every opportunity a referendum on them. And this is what Shapiro said about the 2020 election. He said, if it's a referendum on Joe Biden, if it's a referendum on Trump, Trump wins. Now, unfortunately, Trump tried to employ this tactic by putting out the Hunter Biden stuff. And of course, the entire media establishment tried to bury that. And they wouldn't ask Joe Biden anything about it and blah, 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 right? We all know. You're going to have an unfair advantage in that regard, but you want to, as much as possible, make the conversation a referendum on them. One thing that Trump would do often, people would debate him, he would completely ignore their argument and make it back to being a referendum on them. He would just not even respond to it. He would just immediately hit back. He wouldn't even try to defend it, just hit back and hit back hard. So one way to make things a referendum on your opponent is to push the limits of their understanding. People don't have a great understanding of issues. They've heard catchy slogans. So if you end every statement with a question or an accusation, it puts it back on them, right? If you are sitting there defending, then you don't want to be the team that's defending. You want to be the team that's making progress down the field. You want to be the team that's on top throwing punches. And if you can get them, if you can ask the right questions, and this goes back to understanding their policies better than they do and knowing where the logical fallacy is in their argument, is you can keep questioning them and they have to keep responding. And this works very well because there are inconsistencies in the left's argument, because all of their strategies, all of their arguments, there's no logical endpoint, right? We've had this conversation, the difference between conservatives and progressives. The conservatives point to the Constitution. They say, that's it. That's the endpoint. That's the government we want. That's the society we want to live in. We understand that there is a role for government, but it is also a necessary evil. Power corrupts, and we want to give as much liberty and choice to individuals as possible. And it's not that hard to sell, honestly, if you can get your message out there. The left, they run on solving injustices. And so there's always one more injustice to solve. And the end game is a totalitarian state where the government has accumulated all the power for the sake of solving injustices, right? They want a monopoly on guns. They want the right to confiscate and redistribute wealth. They want to dominate your healthcare. They want to dominate your business. They want to take away all of your guns. So the gun debate is actually a really good one. This is a winning one for arguments, because the left, they know that the logical endpoint of confiscating all guns in the country is not going to win with Americans. That's why they focus on the scary guns. That's why they say we should ban assault weapons. So point out that handguns kill 7 times more people. Should we ban handguns? And then keep hitting that, because they'll say, well, you have to make them dance around that. So you can easily make it a referendum on them by saying, handguns kill far more people. Should we ban handguns? And they are not going to be able to defend that position, because it doesn't make sense for them to try to ban assault weapons, which are only responsible for a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of the gun violence in this country. The vast majority of gun violence is committed with handguns. But taking people's handguns by government force is a very hard proposition to sell in the United States. Right. So, and again, there's flaws in their arguments, right? Well, Nancy Pelosi has walls around her house, right? That Joe Biden put up National Guard troops around his around the White House when he got into office and had giant fences there. Walls for me, not for thee. Police for me, not for thee. And you can point that out, right? There's not really there are abundant hypocrisies in the left, and there are abundant inconsistencies in their policies because, again, there's no logical endpoint. So just focus on those radical positions on the left and keep asking, where does it end, right? Oh, okay, a minimum wage law. Well, what if prices go up? And that their argument will be prices won't go up. And you'll be able to point out, well, actually, everywhere minimum wage laws have been implemented, if you make it more expensive to conduct businesses raise their prices to compensate for that, or they fire people. And if they say, well, then the government should control prices, and you're saying, oh, now the government should control prices. Well, you know, the same leather that makes a baseball, the cost of a cow is hard for the government to set, right? Because that one cow produces dairy, it produces yogurt, it produces meat, it produces leather. That leather, so in an indirect way, cottage cheese is connected to the price of baseball mitts. And at some point, you know, the government can't predict all of those factors. And you can push them to try to defend arguments like that. They can't do it. Keep it on them and spot the inconsistencies in the argument.
COVID has stopped Triangle Cross Ranch from conducting any fundraisers since March of 2020. Current state government issues has stopped our ability to have fundraisers until March 2021. We need financial donations to get through the rest of the year. Any financial support is welcome, or just send $1 US silver dollar a month to support our Christian mission. Triangle Cross Ranch, 36049 County Road 51, P.O. Box 727, Gailton, Colorado, 80622.
Hi, this is Mike Morris, owner of Warriors Revolution Tactical in Longmont. At Warriors Revolution, we have the largest selection of tactical gear and ammo in northern Colorado. But what many people may not know is that we now sell firearms. And even despite the recent run on firearms and ammunition, we have plenty of product in the store, including ARs, AKs, Glocks, SIGs, HK, and more. And don't forget all the bulk ammunition at the best prices in town. Need to do a private firearms transfer? We can do that too. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and our team is made up of veterans and security experts, not a bunch of salesmen. Our team is trained and fought with much of the actual equipment we sell. And one thing you should know is that we support the foundations and principles this great country was founded upon. So if you need tactical gear, ammo, firearms, AR parts or upgrades, and even survival accessories, stop by and visit us on Ken Pratt Boulevard and Bowen Street in Longmont, or visit warriorsrevolution.com. That's warriorsrevolution.com.
1360khnc.com has CBD products. Click on the shop button and get yours today.
Just go to 1360khnc.com/shop. The CBD on our website is 99% pure, all natural, no pesticides, non-GMO, is grown organically right here in Colorado, and is 100% THC free. Oh, and did you know ours is the lowest price CBD anywhere in northern Colorado? For all your CBD needs, just log on to 1360khnc.com/shop.
All of the music for the Bucky Dillon Morning Show was provided by my band, Beer for Bears. Find us on social media by looking for Beer for Bears.
So just a quick recap. Number one, when should you debate? When you know the subject matter, and when you have an audience, and understanding the person that you're debating is a pretty good, before you just engage, perhaps you should, say if you're on Facebook, right? Before you engage with that person, click on their profile, scroll down a little bit, see the conversations that they've had and other things. See what their strategies and their thought process is like, right? If it's a person well, how do they interact with people? Are they kind of a dick? Bring that side out of them. If you can provoke someone into being a angry, mean person, then you can point out, hey, look, I'm trying to have a civil conversation. This is an angry, mean guy. So definitely launch brutal attacks. Definitely frame and characterize your opponent, but be nice about it, right? Be sly about it. Be careful about it, right? Be thoughtful about it, because the optics are important. Don't argue with your boss. Don't argue with your coworker. Don't argue with your wife. Boys, life lesson. Don't argue politics with your wife. Okay. If you want to make friends with people, there's different conversations you can have. Argue on moral terms. Always focus on the moral aspects of your argument, not the numbers. I'm into the stuff, but when Ron Paul gets up there and he starts talking about his Federal Reserve reform bill, my eyes glaze over, right? So do everyone else's. Do I think the Federal Reserve should be repealed? Yeah, I'm into this stuff, but man, it can be dry for even me. Okay, so focus on the moral elements of your argument and the moral failings of your opponent's argument, not on the numbers as much. Use the numbers to back up the moral aspect. AOC understands that. The illustrious AOC, D, Twitch. Know the topic of the debate. Understand both sides of the debate. Study the topic. You don't want to get into a fight that you're not prepared to win. So before you make your arguments, look up different articles, different pieces written about that subject, and look at the countervailing arguments as well, so you understand where they're going to try to hit you and where to shore up your defenses. Don't cower away from them saying mean things about them. Flip it on them. Point out that it is immoral for you to attack your character like that, even though you are probably going to be engaging in it a little bit too. But don't be afraid of them saying mean things about you, and point out that is corrupt of them to do so. Think about the optics, right? Make sure that you look like a good person. This is part of the reason why I said the Confederate flag was a terrible idea. Why was it that the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and all these other big left-wing outlets after the Capitol 6 riots kept putting up headlines with images of either the Buffalo guy or the guy with the Confederate flag? Because they know that will do the most damage. That will do the most damage. Guys, the Bucky Dillon Show is supported by Jerry Sears. Jerry at Sears. If you're interested in buying real estate, give my friend Jerry a call. Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com, and check out the shop button on 1360khnc.com. CBD products. We got them. You need them. Definitely check them out. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show.
Is the driveway made of fruit leather?